he was murmuring, but I couldn't hear what he was saying. And there was just this tiny, tiny wound.
Not worry about the camera.
Okay. Always worry about the camera.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm a director, so I mean, it's like...
Mr. Figgis, it's the summer of 2009. What's been happening with you the past couple of years? What's new?
I had a very bad accident, and I was in a wheelchair for a while. And so it was a good time to think. So I've been thinking about film and about just the culture in general, and also what I want to do.
You trust me?
Since you're saying it was a period of reflection, well, what are the conclusions?
Mainly the internet is the key factor. So people are watching more movies than they ever watched before, but in small pieces, you know. And they accumulate information, not from one source, but from 100 sources and so on, you know. Everything is now available almost for nothing. I mean, if a young person who's not so well off can take a song for nothing, why would they pay for it, you know? Even though, quote, it's illegal. You know, the same with movies, the same with visual information. So, you know, this is the Pandora's box that now exists. It's like, then the challenge for filmmakers is, how do you find a way to make a living and still be an artist?
Fucking slut.
Where it's gonna come from and how we can be able to wear it once.
Action.
We're mentioning the internet, we're mentioning the arts, but you're here as a representative of this dinosaur of arts, of film. And film has, over the years, changed really, really slowly. So how would you say that all those elements that we've been discussing here are influencing the film world? How does the language of cinema change? And I don't mean just this sort of low-level experimental work area, but in Hollywood films or in European films.
You know, the question really is, how long will it take? Because there is enough still money in the bank with most institutions to continue with the facade of the idea that this is still the world order, but we know it's not. So, so I'm here representing, if you like, I hope a new idea. So I'm screening Timecode tomorrow, which I will do a live mix of. So I'm saying, for me, cinema, interestingly, has the possibility of being a theatrical experience. So every time you do it, it's different. So to create now, using cinema technique, to create something that isn't just something I made last year, now it's dead, but it's still very beautiful. Please watch it, you know?
I can't handle this anymore. I can't handle this. I can't handle the pressures.
Love letter straight from your heart. Keep us so near while apart.
Since you mentioned Timecode, I think this is a perfect example of, I wouldn't necessarily say sort of a new concept of cinema, but of approaching the concept of cinema, taking something that's traditional in it, because you have the story in the film, it's a narrative film, but at the same time coming up with, first of all, using the technology that allowed you to do that almost 10 years ago, to do those continuous shots. But on the other hand, of course, somehow experiment with the story you're telling.
Exactly. But that's the extent of my interactive ambition. The idea that you make something and give it to the audience, I have zero interest in. You know, like, okay, you finish it off. No, I go, fuck that. Go and make your own film. You know, I'll make something that has possibilities. That maybe can make your interest be a little bit more intense. But no, I'm not. To me, that's video game world, and I'm not a huge fan of video games. They're like a bad drug, I think.
It's like a glass noodle one, like the kind of glass noodles you think you.
That sounds really
Japanese restaurants, you know, the glass noodle worms. I mean, like noodles, and that's what the worm is like.
Okay, games have always existed, and you know, it's not that different from any other game. You participate, you employ a part of your brain to get through a series of problems, and you hope you win. You hope you get to a certain level. So it appeals to a competitive element in your brain and all human beings. So I mean, I don't have a problem with that. To me, films, which are an extension of theatre, which was conceived of organically as a way of, in a public spectacle, discussing the problems of life and death and how we deal with death, fundamentally. You know, how we deal with tragedy in our life and so on. So going back to Greek theatre, you know, so I think cinema was colossally important for that reason, you know, as theatre was in its time.
But at the same time, computer games are it seems, the scapegoat now. I mean, there are so many filmmakers, there are so many critics who say, well, you know, the young generation plays computer games and they expect the same thing from cinema, they expect interactivity and so on.
It's not their fault.
I think it's the right direction.
No, it's completely wrong. The problem is that the main source of material for most studios now, because of the terror of losing money, are computer games, comic books, and adolescent male comedies about sex. So, you know, we have reached a very, very, like, amazingly low level of intellectual achievement suddenly. I mean, we've dropped into a hole. And now that's a purely economic, capitalistic, low, and, I mean, the people who run Hollywood now are, to be honest, they're moronic. They're people who themselves play computer games. They're not the people who should be running cinema. So it's not the fault of the audience or of cinema, it's the fault of a group of half-witted retards who really should be in Wall Street. I should be in prison, actually, because they would be hedge funders if they were not producers, you know.
What's the tone of the movie? Is it just sort of, is it like comedy or drama?
No, this is a very deep, rich melodrama, and you know, there's a lot of sex, so.
Well, then let's fantasize for a moment. What do you think, say, in 5 or in 7 years' time, the image of cinema will be?
So I hope, and I don't see why not, because the idea of public cinema still is appealing to everybody, you know, like 100 people watching the same film. It's exciting. I'll give you an example. I gave a talk to a group of big party for young filmmakers in London. It's a group called Shooting People, and it's a website where filmmakers help each other. And a lot of people, 10,000, 20,000 people, members, you know. And I said, to make my point, and it's raining, hands up, who wants to be an actor? Lots of hands. Who wants to be a director? Brown. Who wants to be a producer? A lot of hands. I said, who wants to be a distributor? One hand in maybe 2,000 people. And I said, okay, that's my point. Until you create distribution, you will not solve this problem. Alternative distribution is very possible now, but no one's doing it, you know?